We are somehow almost at the halfway point of 2023, so it's time to take a look at my top 5 best movies of the year so far. It's really the calm before the storm right now with all these massive summer movies just weeks away from being released, so it'll be interesting to look back on this list at the end of the year and see how everything shakes out with my own personal rankings. But enough jibber jabber, let's get right into this with my pick for number 5, which is Evil Dead Rise. And I'll start this one off by saying that I am a massive Evil Dead fan, and I feel like when this one was announced, it was the big question mark, right? Obviously, everyone was wary about the 2013 Evil Dead. It was the first time we had someone new behind the camera, but that one really came out of nowhere, knocked our socks off, and captured lightning in a bottle. So everyone, myself included, was like, okay, but can you do it again 10 years later and with another new director? And I'm happy to say, for the most part, they kind of pulled it off. I love when you can tell right from the start of a movie that the director is a huge fan first and foremost of the franchise he's actually adding on to, and Lee Cronin proved to me multiple times throughout this movie that he must have burned through a ton of VHS tapes of The Evil Dead when he was a kid. He found a way to honor all of those classic trademarks while also finding a way to put his own creative spin on stuff. The performances are solid, the gore is right where it needs to be, and even though it definitely isn't a comedy, it still maintains that biting wit that the franchise is known for. It has everything a sick puppy like me needs in an Evil Dead film. But one of the coolest things about this movie is that it shows the franchise can still work in a new setting and still be super effective. The possibilities are endless now. I need one to take place on a cruise ship or in a hospital next, like I need air to breathe. Coming in at number 4 is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and what a damn surprise this one was. I actually have no idea how they were able to balance this shit out so well. I mean, there are tons of callouts and references to different items, character types, and mechanics that'll make nerdy-ass D&D players like me appreciate that this movie was made by fans of the source material, but they don't do it in a way where they're just confusing the hell out of you and shoving it down your throat if you've never rolled a 20-sided dice before. I give them major props for that, because appealing to a hardcore fan base and still remaining accessible is no easy thing to pull off. And to keep with that theme, this movie just does so much right when it comes to balancing all of the action, world building, and comedy. You definitely won't be bored during this one. I mean, the scenes where the characters are just exploring and shooting the shit were just as entertaining as seeing them fight off a chubby-ass dragon. All of the actors here are perfectly cast for their roles. It makes total sense that Chris Pine would be the overly charismatic bard, and that Michelle Rodriguez would be the barbarian that doesn't sugarcoat anything. At the end of the day, this movie just has everything I want my big-budget adventure films to have. Fun characters, interesting scenarios, in a world you actually want to spend time in. Give me about 10 more of these things. Coming in at number 3 is Air, and I keep saying that in this movie, Ben Affleck does the smartest thing he could possibly ever do while sitting in the director's chair. He appeals to the most passionate and outspoken demographic we have in existence today. And of course, I'm talking about none other than middle-aged dads. This movie really was designed from top to bottom to be an absolute crowd pleaser. I mean, you have sports, business, and the 1980s all wrapped up in a motivational true story. And if that wasn't enough, Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, Chris Tucker, Viola Davis, and Ben Affleck round out the cast of this one. I mean, this movie couldn't lose. That ensemble's a goddamn cheat code. And I really feel like it's a telltale sign of impressive drama within movies like this one, where we already know how it's gonna end, right? This is a true story. We know Michael Jordan's gonna end up signing with Nike before we even watch this thing. But towards the conclusion, I still found myself rooting super hard for these characters to pull this shit off against all odds. I really think this film will go down as one of the easiest movies of the year to enjoy and get behind. It's lighthearted, it's funny, it's got moments that will make your dad fist pump. All the ingredients of a pure cinematic experience. Coming in at number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and this entry proves to me that movies are a magical thing because it had the power to get me crying over a CGI raccoon. Now, these Guardians movies always bring with them such a high level of entertainment, fun, and heart. I mean, they kind of transcend the usual vibes of the MCU, right? There are tons of people out there that don't enjoy watching Marvel movies, but they will get their butt in a seat for these characters. And that standard we've come to expect from James Gunn and this usual crew is very much still intact in this third entry. This cast continues to play off each other so well. I keep saying that even if you stuck all of them in like a 1920s silent film, they'd still find a way to make that chemistry ooze right out of the screen. But obviously, the real star of the show here is Rocket Raccoon. We get a peek behind the curtain at his heartbreaking origin story. I mean, that high evolutionary is a real formidable bastard, and I've become a massive softie after becoming a dog owner 4 years ago. Anything to do with animals now, I am done. I'm a blubbering mess. Thanks a lot, James Gunn. At the end of the day, this movie just has everything in it you would want a send-off to the Guardians of the Galaxy to have in it. Great heart, great action, great music. This is the type of Marvel movie where I only see it going up in my overall MCU rankings after rewatching it, so I'm looking forward to seeing where it lands even a year from now. Coming in at number 1 is John Wick Chapter 4, and I'm sure you knew this had to be somewhere on the list. This movie is the culmination of all the groundwork laid by the first 3 films. It takes all of the consequences, the world building, and the character development, but cranks it up to 11. And the best part, they somehow package it into a 3-hour epic that doesn't overstay its welcome. The big difference maker this time around is that they flesh out a ton of unique and satisfying side characters to surround John Wick while he's out there doing his thing. I mean, there are side characters in here I wouldn't mind seeing a spin-off for, and I hate spin-offs. Donnie Yen and Scott Adkins kind of stole the show for me, and they play off of Keanu Reeves' tight-lipped performance perfectly. I mean, Mr. Bean says more shit than this guy, so that addition really helped to make this underground world of hitmen feel lived in. This one really plays out like a video game, and I mean that in the best way possible. There's different levels and mini-bosses, and there's different fighting styles and music to go along with those. Even though everything still feels like one cohesive package, all of those sections feel so distinct from one another. You get your samurai fight, you get your bar fight, and obviously there's a ton of gunplay in here too. These sequences show just how much Chad Stahelski has learned behind the camera while making these movies, and that he's still finding ways to innovate with every new film in the series. So there you have it, guys, my picks for the top 5 best movies of 2023 so far. So now you know how my list shakes out, but I want to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below what movies have already earned a best of the year spot on your list. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.